These are stories, and this first one is called These Dreams. The room was dark and dusty with a dirt floor and thatched roof. I sat with the other women around a large wooden table, and we peeled mangoes with Bowie knives. I carefully peeled the thin skin off the fruit to reveal tightly woven veins throbbing. I cut through the deep red veins to reveal a white bar of soap with the word soap engraved on it. The bar of soap turned bright blue when it got wet. It was for oily skin. While most of the mangoes contained soap, some of them contained teeth. The teeth would bite at us and at the soap and try to escape by blowing soap bubbles. We would stab the teeth with our Bowie knives and toss them into the garbage heap with the peelings and the veins. The whole mess bled into the dirt floor and made it muddy. I woke up shivering with damp and cold in my sheets. I had sweat through the bedclothes in my sleep. My pajamas were dripping with moisture. I shook violently as I changed into fresh pajamas, took some ibuprofen for my fever, and changed the bedding. I turned the electric blanket up full blast to warm up. My teeth chattered. The line for the cafeteria was really crowded, and I couldn't find my meal card. The smell of coffee and toast and bacon was making me so hungry. But I checked all of my pockets and in my backpack, and I couldn't find my meal card. I snuck into the cafeteria with the group ahead of me, but they took the last of the toast and the bacon and the eggs and the coffee. I went looking for cereal, but only found empty containers. I was about to go crazy with hunger and frustration when I woke up in bed, much too hot from the electric blanket. I got out of bed and turned off the blanket and threw on a robe and slippers and went into the kitchen. Too bad I had dreamt of bacon and eggs. All I had was oatmeal. It tasted doubly bland after my dream. I was out of coffee and orange juice and had to make do with tap water. Yum. I called in sick to work, made an appointment with my doctor for the afternoon, and put last night's sweaty sheets into the laundry. I lay back down to the soothing swooshing of the washer. Someone converted my house into apartment buildings while I was asleep, and when I woke up, I couldn't find the bathroom anywhere. I went up and down the flooded corridors, opened door after door leading to endless hallways, and could not find a bathroom. My alarm went off for me to get ready to go to the doctor's, and I raced to the toilet and relieved myself. I got ready for my appointment and drove across town. I had a brief wait in the waiting room and then another short wait in the exam room. The doctor came in and examined me quite thoroughly. Then he peeled back my skull and stuck 2 pills into my brain and snapped my head back into place. "You've got quite a high fever," he said. "We'll have to admit you to the hospital." I woke up in a white room with an IV drip in my arm. And this next story is called Scratch. The rain was crashing down in sheets, so it was strange that Pablo could hear the scratching. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was frantic. Someone was trying to get through the wall. The sound had woken Pablo out of his sound sleep, and now he stood in his pajamas next to the wall. The sound was coming from the middle of the wall, about 3 feet up, and Pablo was not certain what to do about it. He gently touched the wall where the sound was coming from and could feel the scratching on the other side. The rain pounded, and Pablo could hear the ocean waves pounding against the building. Pablo wished his wife had not left him the week before. She would know what to do about the scratching. She held very definite opinions about everything. Pablo, on the other hand, stood shifting from foot to foot. A tiny hole appeared, and then a tiny mouse. "Run!" yelled the mouse, jumping onto Pablo's shoulder. "The building is going to collapse." Pablo, too startled to do anything else, ran. He left everything behind and ran in sheer terror up the stairs and out of the building. The apartments were built into the side of a cliff, which meant that the ground floor was level with the ocean, and the top floor, the 4th floor, came out at the top of the cliff. Pablo was in the parking lot when the apartment building crumbled into the sea and took all the other tenants with it. It sunk into the ocean as if it had never been. The mouse ran off Pablo's shoulder and into a nearby shrubbery. Pablo sat down on the asphalt in his pajamas in the driving rain. The waves crashed beneath him. That was where he was found the next day when the sun came out. some kind person wrapped him in a silver blanket and put him in an ambulance and took him away.
This is from a childhood memoir. Sin. One day, Mary and I went downtown to Maryanne's, a store that sold practically everything, including a large selection of magazines. Mary was heavily invested in movie stars and used her weekly allowance to buy magazines which she cut up. Then she pasted the pictures of sexy stars into scrapbooks. She compiled a full book of Ava Gardner and another of Rita Hayworth. Now she was busy making one of Marilyn Monroe, a new star who was very young and sexy. Mary's no fun anymore, spending all her time on stupid movie stars. 10-year-olds should still be interested in playing jacks and hopscotch. I sure won't go crazy like her, I thought. My interest lay in the store's huge selection of candy bars. They had Three Musketeers, Sugar Daddies, Baby Ruth, and Butterfinger, all the good ones. After looking a minute, Mary excitedly held up the April 1954 issue of Silver Screen. "Diane," she whispered, "I want this, but it costs 15 cents and I only have a dime. Let's steal it." "No way! You want it, not me. Take it, I won't tell on you." That was no assurance. "No, you have to take one too." "But I don't want one." "Listen, if one of us does it, we both have to. If you take one, I'll use my dime for a candy bar. Pick any one you want." My belly growled with anticipation. One time won't matter. I accepted her offer and began to deliberate which one was the biggest. "Hurry up," she warned. "If you take a long time, they'll get suspicious." I settled on the largest one in the case. "Get me a big hunk," I said, and went to look at the magazines. On the cover, I saw a woman on her hands and knees in a skimpy black costume. I don't know why she bothered to wear anything, because her outfit only covered the tips of her breasts, and the sheer material showed her nipples. It was like a one-piece bathing suit, but not nearly as sturdy. Wouldn't do for one good swim. She wore gold high-heeled shoes and long black stockings that looked like they might be made from a fishnet. Straddled over her back was a man with bulging muscles. That must be how Goliath looked with his armor, I thought. The man was wearing tight black briefs and snapping a riding whip like he might use it on the lady. Doesn't he know she's not a horse? He wore a smirk while the lady's smile was shy and frightened. I couldn't see either of the couple's eyes because black stripes covered them. This was the one I wanted. Mary paid for the candy bar. We stuffed the magazines inside our sweaters, walked out of the store, and then ran like hell. I'm a stealer now, a thief. Walking home, I had no appetite and gave my unopened candy bar to Mary. She promptly ate it and outlined her plan to work on her Marilyn Monroe scrapbook as soon as we got home. In my bedroom, I glanced at my Frolic magazine, felt sick, and put it beneath my socks and panties in the chest of drawers.
Something really funny to follow that. Sorry, I'm not a very funny writer. But I do have 4 poems that tie into what these people did, so I pulled them up and we'll share. So I have 2 Genesis poems, and I think my creative writing class helped me with one, so sorry, you have to hear it again. And then one about cancer, and then I'll end with one that has nothing to do with anything. Okay, a day to die. If they had not expelled themselves from Eden, today would be just another ethereal day in the Garden of Light, another day of wholeness, unification. But Eve, scared as she was, took death in her teeth, split the world in two, took the sudden breath of separateness from man, from God, the duality of good and evil. So much in a bite. Perhaps she sat with this loss like a pebble in her mouth, shifting it from side to side, trying not to swallow it, be swallowed by it. Sitting among wispy dead grasses, cold rock slabs, planting a sun back into the dust. Do you suppose she ever rolled the pebble off her tongue? Let it fall back to earth? This one is called Adjustments to Genesis. The apple was not the forbidden fruit, it was the mango. And it was Adam, not Eve, that removed the skin like a tight, fresh dress, leaving the slick flesh open, sweet, wet, ripe. He placed it on her lips as if he knew what he was doing, slit a sticky course between the first untouched fruits, promised with a serpentine smile to lick the sticky juice of sin clean from her skin. Eve watched his eyes, the songs of the doves receding, the new ache of her flesh, surprisingly hungry, and even cherubim and the flaming sword, so diligent in their guard, could not stop the fateful entry to Eden. This one is watching my parents. It's called Life and Death on the Fifth Floor. His breath leaves through a pursed lip exhale and a groan, snort, blow, groan, snort, blow, an old man sleeping. His wife, parts and pieces, a thin green blanket as shield, coral pink beanie a shroud, bandages strangle her chest, a mask. Tears leak from her eyes, mirroring the rain sliding down the great dark window, framing the sleeping old man. It is January and the sky was born a blank wool gray, the snow blotching the hillside like a fur on an old aged dog, like the skin on her hands and feet after chemo. And the old man stretches out on the slab of the couch, no pillow, flat like the dead. And her breathing mingles with his, and the rain slinks, and life goes on, however tentative. My final one is called Grace. All those people we never wanted to be, but suddenly are. It's hard to swallow. I am whispering with the voice of a waterfall, and you are listening with rutabaga ears. It is no wonder this ivory gate has a full belly of tarnish and garlic. I have slept with the moon, spooned myself around its bulbous body looking for salvation, while angels of mercy ran like headless chickens trying to buy me time, stop the Big Dipper from filling, overflowing with the motley charcoal of the sky. The earth was old before we got here. Her tinsel heartstrings taut with faith and commandment. Man, woman, we recomb the known over and over. It is just the way. The folds of earth, like pages of skin in the book of judgment, hand out apples and fur, dens and dense stones. But these are not the only gift. The steadiness of her heaving chest, a footing beneath our hovels. The wings we are growing to lift us when her work is done. This is the grace of the elders.
I like the sound of a room full of English majors getting a double entendre. Yes. Sexual. So let's hope for more of those. Also, good reading. It's good reading, everyone. You know, it wasn't just sex. Our next three readers are Isaac Timm, we've got Bill, and we've got Chad.
That's all right. I'll just go up front. I'm loud. Just turn it here. This poem doesn't have a title. This is Draft 3. She is no pillow-shaped purring house cat, but moves gaunt, a felt blade knife, sunflower eyes wide, mouth half open, taking in huntress scents. My nieces named her Princess, reached out for her with hands full of cat treats. She tickled them with whiskers, but then jumped out of petting distance, her slightly blacker stripes shimmering like shark gills. Princess hunches, a cocked gun. The girls titter, our neighbors' songbirds walk across their hands. I want to warn them, but Princess rushes, a line of black mercury, the teacup-sized birds too domesticated. I shut the door, muting their screams.
Bill, you're up next.
Oh, I thought there was someone else. Okay. If I fall down on the way up there and swear, too bad. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm Bill.
Hi,
If you
Bill.
don't know me, well, you might be lucky. I've had nuns run from me. I've had blind women hit me with canes.
You asked for it. He literally has.
I've been called eclectic. The difference between eclectic and eccentric is the amount of money you have. Without money, you're eccentric. This poem is called The Rape of the Left Eye. Now, for you guys that don't know, raping the left eye is a very complex process and very expensive. This all started because I felt the need for new glasses. I went to the doctor. Pleasant. The women there are more than moderately attractive. In fact, some are very attractive, I think. Because as things progressed, you ever get that sneaking suspicion? People are talking behind your back, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, I never had this test. What's going on here? Wait a minute, I never had that test. And then they give you some drops to lubricate your eye. And then they give you more drops to lubricate your eye. And then you drop the drops in the wrong eye because you're blinking. And that's no fun. So then you have to try to do it again. Now you can't see a damn thing, but you go through 2 days of lubricating your eye, and then you go to the doctor. And they put more drops in your eye because the eye has to be well lubricated. And more drops and more drops. And I am way damn tired of drops in my eye. Then a nice man comes and puts an IV in your arm. It's really nice. Except for there ain't nothing in that IV. Oh well. Then, and this is the way my life goes, then they take me to the operating room. Because if you're gonna rape the left eye, you better do it in surgical conditions. And I managed to get myself in trouble in the operating room because I didn't want to bang into anything, so I went over this way, and since I'm bigger than the guy holding me, I kind of pushed him that way, and it's like, oh, what the hell? Where are you going? You're going into the sterile area. Oh, okay. Then they lay you down, and then they strap you down, and then somebody reads in the little record. It's kind of like your school permanent record. I hate that. Mine is like way thick of indiscretions I've been blamed for that I've never done. And that's a fact. I have witnesses that will tell you that. I was once walking across the quad, And the new dean of the College of Natural Resources came up to me, Dean Fraser came up to me, and he said, Bill, I just came from a meeting where they blamed you for something that I know you didn't do. I replied, well, if I would have done 50% of the stuff on this campus that they blamed me for, I'd be in the Utah State Prison. He replied, Bill, if you'd have done 10%. Oh, wait a minute, but I digress. Let's get back to raping my left eye. So they strap you down, and then they read the record. This guy once, while he was supposedly knocked out, grabbed the doctor by the throat. Better give him some more stuff. Now, the drug they use when they rape your left eye is one of the date rape drug family things. I wasn't paying much attention because I was a little bit nervous. I did ask them, I can't remember what they said, but it's in that family. So you're conscious, but you're not really knowing what's going on. The only thing I do remember is, wait a minute, he's moving. Better give him more of the stuff. Whatever the stuff is. I don't know what the stuff is. And then the next thing I know, I wake up with this stupid, dorky pirate patch with holes in it taped over my right eye. Now I'm in panic. What the hell? Oh. Nurse, where's that button? Where's that button? Nurse, nurse, nurse.
Hi. How's it going? I read at Helicon West a long time ago for the first time, and I think Star read at least the first or second time. And I was always really kind of excited when Star read. I felt like I was in such great company, so I really wanted to come and read today. And I'm going to read something that I wrote a long time ago that Star said that she wanted.
Congratulations on your book, by the way.
Oh, thank you, Rob. This isn't about fishing. This isn't about fishing in any way at all.
Still, congratulations.
Thank you, Rob. That's very kind of you. Yeah, and Star said she said, Chad, I really liked that. And so I've never done anything with this, but I take it out now and work on it. And it's called Decidedly So. I had the weirdest dream last night. I had one of those dreams where you hear something, but you're asleep, so your brain makes up a dream to explain the sound. Your brain doesn't want you to wake up, so it tricks you into thinking that you're already awake. Like when the phone rings and you're asleep, so instead of the phone, you hear a fire alarm. You leap out of bed, slide down a fire pole, get in a fire truck. You race to the fire, and there are people dying, screaming, smoke. A mother drops a flaming infant from a 2-story window, then jumps out herself, also on fire. You pick up a fire hose. Another fireman hooks it to the fire hydrant, but he accidentally sets it to cake frosting. See, all fire hydrants have 3 settings: water, cake frosting, and Dr. Pepper. Gallons of cake frosting spurt out of the nozzle, but it only shoots a few feet. People are dying, burning, clothes burned off, skin falling from bones like charred hot dog meat. This is your fault. You are captain of this hose. When the inquest begins, they'll come to you for answers. Why couldn't you put out the fire? Don't you know the cake frosting setting is only for birthdays and weddings? You scream, set it to water, turn it to the left, to the left. It's a clumsy process. They use a wrench about 3 feet long. Then you think, wait, fire hydrants do not dispense cake frosting, nor Dr. Pepper. And it's gone, the fire alarm is gone, and it's your phone on the nightstand. You fumble around, knock everything to the floor, somehow come up with the phone. But some part of you is still in the dream, so instead of hello, you mutter, cake frosting can't put out a fire. It's your boss from work. He says, are you in bed? Where are you? It's 9:45. You hurry and get dressed, but you have to think up a cover story in case your boss asks you what you said on the phone, like you're George Jetson working on some hilarious scam, and you have to have an excuse in case Mr. Spacely says, "Say, Jetson, what was that you were saying this morning about cake frosting and a fire?" "Oh, that? I can explain that. See, I was fixing some bacon, and there was a grease fire, and I told my wife to quick and hand me some water, but she handed me some cake frosting." "Water? Jetson, don't you know water doesn't put out a fire? It makes it worse, you dummy. What were you doing answering the phone in the middle of a grease fire anyway?" So I had to cover up the noise dream. But in this case, the noise was my own exhausted snoring, which my brain turned into the sound of a robot having sex with a dog I owned when I was 7 years old. Her name was Brandy, and the rhythmic rasp of my snoring became the mechanical whine of the robot's organ pumping slowly in and out of the dog. And in case you're wondering, the dog apparently didn't care. But what I found odd was not the robot, and not the dog calmly allowing this machine to violate her. What tipped me off was it was the wrong yard. It was our house in Phoenix. We didn't get Brandy until we moved to Scottsdale 5 years later, so how could it be Brandy? This is the human brain. This is the apparatus that makes sense of the world for us. My brain hears snoring and it says, "Oh, that? I can explain that. You see, there's this robot." And if this happens when my brain doesn't understand what it's hearing while I'm asleep, how can I trust it when it doesn't understand what's happening when I'm awake? Like yesterday when my stupid boss gave me 3 days of work. 3 days to finish a week's worth of work. Of course, he said I'll have 5 days because there's a Sunday and Saturday in there, so it's a full week. But why does this shit happen to me? I'll tell you what I think. Alternate realities. There are alternate realities all around us, and when we dream, we see into them. Some are similar to our own reality, like when I'm sitting on the couch eating Doritos. Sometimes it's a robot screwing a dog. In some other reality, that's normal. Right now, there's an alternate me saying, "I had the weirdest dream. I went into this big building and sat in a chair staring at this little screen. And there was this thing with a button for each letter of the alphabet. So I sat there with the thing, pressing the buttons to make words. It was so freaky. I tried to leave, but they wouldn't let me. They said I had to stay. Until it was all dark outside, and then they let me go." Is that weird or what? In my office, I have a magic 8-ball, a little toy pool ball with a window on the bottom, and you ask it yes or no questions. I keep it on my desk. People think it's cool. But whenever my boss comes in, the only thing keeping me from smashing the 8-ball on his head is that I do it all the time in another reality. He really is just like Mr. Spacely, a little mustache, always upset. In the dream, he's actually 3 feet tall too, and he wears a little jumpsuit. I take the 8-ball in both hands and bring it down on his skull as hard as I can. It's only plastic, but it's pretty solid and it's spherical, which is the best shape for a blunt force weapon. It shatters, completely comes apart. You might be surprised to know that Magic 8-Ball is not completely full of liquid. There's just a small cylinder in there, about the same diameter as the viewport. This makes perfect sense. No need to fill the whole ball. Somewhere inside the headquarters of the Magic 8-Ball Corporation, there is an equation that shows how much liquid they did not need when they decided not to fill the entire sphere. If they tried to fill it all up, it wouldn't have been a cost-effective toy. They saved the company millions on manufacturing and shipping. It's probably the key to the Magic 8-Ball Corporation's success. That's hard to say. But in my dream, the ball is full of liquid. And Mr. Spacely is soaked in indigo Magic 8-Ball fluid. He staggers to the wall and leans there, checking his head with his fingertips. There's almost as much blood as 8-ball juice. I look for the little polyhedron with the prophecies on it. I've never seen one outside a working Magic 8-Ball. When it was in the fluid, floating in the ball, it was a ghostly purple color. Now that it's liberated, it's pure white. Looks like a 20-sided sugar cube. It has landed on the answer, "It is decidedly so." And that's the only answer it's ever gotten right.
We've got 2 more readers scheduled. Is there anyone else who would like to read? This is the last time I'm asking, so you can't be like, no, I guess I'll read. And everyone's like, oh yeah, because it's going to be too late after this.
Who have you got on there?
We have Maryanne, we have Eric.
What about Ron? Ron, are you going to read?
Ron.
Okay.
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 Okay. Anyone else? Star's trying to trick people into.
Yeah. You will have a hard time saying no.
That's how I ended up here. Be very careful what you say to Star. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to read? All right, cool. Then our last 3 readers for the night are Maryanne, Eric, and Ron.
All right.
My open mic in Provo, we're in a cafe and it's so much louder. So if you guys over there could talk quietly amongst yourselves, and you can mess with the coffee, then maybe I'll be able to read to you. So I was at Zion National Park yesterday, and I've gone there all different times of year, but I really haven't been at the 1st of April before, and it's kind of was a new look. So this is just a little short piece about that. The green bearded canyon sports adolescent tufts in random places, a spring scruff not quite grown in, going for the ruggedly handsome look as he flirts with the falcons and cocks a knowing half smile for the flashing cameras. After a quiet, contemplative winter, the canyon warms to the attention of the adoring crowds and gears up for a long, hot summer by practicing his signature looks, majestic, towering, awe-inspiring. Yeah, that ought to do it. I'm so glad you clapped at that one. When you weren't clapping in between, I was like, oh man, this is going to be really hard. I really need people to clap. I'm one of those kinds of readers. I have a couple of different ones. Just trying to decide which one to end on and which one to middle on. Okay, we will middle on this one. This was after an intense discussion of modesty, and specifically how we teach modesty to young women. And so that's where this piece is coming out of. It's called Confession. I have sent many a man to hell over the years. More when I had a size 0 body, a suede miniskirt, coordinating leather boots with stiletto heels, drawing the eye up, up, up. But even now, with a pair of Spanx and a foundation of slimming black, I can inspire an impure thought or two. As a child, I deduced that I was responsible for my own thoughts and actions because blaming my brother never got me off the hook. But I learned better when I grew into womanhood's superhuman powers. Without lifting a finger, I can sully a man's thoughts. Without breaking a sweat, I can turn a pious man into a covenant breaker. Without a single utterance, I can stir a man to action. All the catalyst he needs is my presence. He isn't in a position to refuse me. Oh, he tries. But his fate is as sealed as a drunk girl's at a frat house. He's about as safe as a prostitute who changes her mind. It's no wonder he's as skittish as a 13-year-old girl sharing a bed with her mother's boyfriend. He must feel so violated. He must wish he had control over his own body. How angry he must be, waiting for me to take responsibility for my actions and stop making him the bad guy. We all know who's at fault here. Great. Thank you for making lots of noise. And this last one is called The Luxury of Breathing. Tipped back again too far, the familiar panic of body craving air, blood rushing, stars littering the peripheral vision, pushing out as a new one emerges, crashing frantically against the tender film of the eyes, searching for the exit, lungs gasping in desperation, and regret thrashing made fruitless by the force of the water. The brain pressing against the skull, tectonic plates shifting, primed to confess any crimes, to reveal any secret. I'm guilty, I admit, I am guilty. A million mistakes led to this moment, where nothing can expunge the water, nothing can pull back the tongue, nothing can restore the tiny burst capillaries around the eyes. Air may replace water, but the mind keeps drowning, the stars keep swirling. When ragged breath returns, it takes tentative steps, ashamed of its failure, and ready to retreat again. Thank you so much.
Hello. Hello. My name's Eric Thalman. I have recently finished up a master's degree at school and at USU. I wrote a thesis. Thanks. I wrote a memoir for my thesis. My father passed away about 4 years ago now, and he and I had a complex relationship. And I essentially wrote a memoir about his relationship with me and incorporated several other themes, spiritual and you know, it's about fathers and sons and family. Now, I have been rather frustrated of late. I've been jumping through all the hoops to get this thing passed through the graduate school and into the library, and trying to make sure that they don't put it online, so that, you know, when I go to publish the book that I'm working on now, I'm expanding it into a book, I'm almost finished with the revision, that the publisher doesn't say, well, it's already online, we're not going to print your book. So, out of that sense of frustration and hoop jumping, big fiery hoops on a circus, anyway, I'm going to read a piece of this, and this is from the first chapter of the book. It's about my childhood experiences. I grew up in the high Uintas, in a little valley called the Camas Valley, if anybody knows where that is, in a little tiny town called Peoa. In this scene, I'm about probably 7 or 8 years old. And for our purposes here, let's just call it an ode to the winters that we used to have. I step outside. The biting chill steals my breath for a moment, and the skin of my cheeks tightens against dry, frozen air. My father reaches back over my head and catches the screen door before it can bang shut. He holds a finger to his lips and shakes his head. Seeing him lean over me like that, silhouetted by cold winter moonlight, the edges of his beard glowing like an upside-down halo, I think he looks like St. Nicholas. Not the jolly American Santa Claus, but the Father Christmas of Lewis's Narnia. Something primal and belonging to the forest. Something wise. There is a claymation Christmas film produced in the 80s when I was a boy that portrays Father Christmas as a mythic figure, as a mythic being caught between the elemental forces of the wilderness in a struggle between good and evil. I loved that little movie, and I associated my father with the kind of truth a child gleans from such stories, that there is something deeper, more elemental about being human than we have been led to believe. I feel elemental watching my brother sit huddled on my mother's lap, bundled under the wool robe my mother wears over her nightgown as I lean on my father's knee and look up at the stars and brilliant moon. My brother had come running into the house a few minutes ago and hurried us all outside to hear the wolves. The official word was that there were no wolves in Utah, that there were none south of Yellowstone Park. But I knew I'd heard them on winter nights in other years. My friend Nicholas, who lived in the town up the road called Oakley, butted up against the foothills on the opposite end of the Camas Valley from us swore he'd heard them too. They say moonlight is silvery, but to see the light of a full or three-quarter moon falling through the clean mountain air upon ground buried under 3 feet of new snow is to witness the reality. Moon and starlight fall upon the new snow like a cascade of shattered glass, silver-tinted and gleaming. Cloudless and still, the whole glittering scene is held as frozen as the air around us. Then I hear it, the clear, long, haunted howl of an American gray wolf, his pack joining their tones to his a moment later in a chorus of ghostly pleas. My little brother gasps and sticks his hand out of my mother's robe to point at the hills above us to the south and whispers, "See? See? I was right." I hear their clarion call again, and a third time. One begins with a high, strong note as high as he can reach. Then the others aim for that same height of tone, and those that fall short form a natural harmony. "Well," whispers my father, "those sure as hell ain't coyotes." As I think back to that moment now, I remember feeling like I was witnessing something magical, like the whole experience was so unreal, so fantastical, that I felt I had left our little house's rickety screen door to step out onto the ice-encrusted snow of our porch and slipped into another world. A world so real and vivid it pierced me, left me forever altered in some visceral way. I had the same experience several times at our family's little farmhouse in Peoa, confronted with glimpses into a world more imminent and sublime than the one to which most of us are convinced we live. Thank you.
Eastern you. We just had Easter celebrate Newburgh, guys conquering death and changed way. And God can start with you, since you gave me new life, and you agreed to become my wife. Eastern you, 2 good days, short of love for me each and every day. Parents stand up. My precious child, have a good day at school. I love you so. You're my jewel. You're so cute. The apple of my eye. See you out of school. Now I gotta say goodbye.
Thanks again to all our open mic readers, as well as Poetry at 3, of course. Let's give another hand to everyone who read. And thank you again to the Logan Library, the USU Writing Center, and of course, Star Colebrook, the once and future Logan Poet Laureate. The only one I'll ever recognize anyway. Yeah. There are books for sale in the back for $5, and of course you can get them signed by our lovely poets. And please, follow Helicon West on Twitter, and chairs too. Yeah, follow the chairs. No, help put the chairs away. Thank you, Rachel and Maryanne, for setting the chairs up, setting everything up, and videotaping and everything. We'll see you guys second Thursday of next month.